My name is Nicole Stroik, and I run the Facebook group The Power of Five. And what The Power of Five consists of is it is a Facebook group of community members, and we just encourage everybody to donate $5 a month, and then we take that $5 and we donate it back into the community.
Kristie, and my position at the Wood County Health Department is Supervisor of Strategic Initiatives.
My name is Salewski, and I'm a discharge planner and case manager with Wood County Human Services and the Sheriff's Department here in Wisconsin Rapids.
So I'll start with where I grew up. I grew up on the western part of the state in a small unincorporated village called Foster, Wisconsin. So many people will know it's right off 94, Interstate 94, in between Eau Claire and Osseo. I went to Osseo Fairchild Public School District for my K through 12 education. And I lived actually I only remember living in one house my whole life. I think my parents moved when I was very young, maybe even an infant. And so I grew up in that small village. And my parents still live there today, and they actually have a hobby farm near where I grew up. A little bit about my youth. I had what I feel like was a wonderful youth, a wonderful childhood. I have 4 older siblings, 3 older brothers, and an older sister. And I remember spending countless hours outside playing all sorts of different things, helping my parents garden and, of course, do chores like mow the lawn and things like that. But I have really, really excellent memories of childhood and just being able to explore, and had very supportive parents who allowed us to I guess, engage in different activities and initiatives and find out things that, really made our hearts sing, if you will. And so one of the things that I was involved in from a very young age was 4-H, and I was a lifelong 4-H'er from kindergarten through 18. Showed at the Eau Claire County Junior Fair, and I feel like learned a lot. I learned a lot about leadership through that, and I learned how to speak publicly through demonstrations. So I not only showed different crafts and things that I would make, but also showed animals, rabbits and chinchillas and cats and all sorts of interesting animals, a bird, I think even. So that was a big part of my youth. I also, a big part of my growing up was athletics. And so at a young age, I had older brothers who were into sports, and I always wanted to play. And so I think I started playing basketball maybe when I was in 2nd grade. And I played starting actually, I think through 4-H, through a community center, and then eventually ended up playing for school, and played volleyball, played basketball, and ran track all the way through high school. And again, I attribute a lot of things in life to the experiences that I had in athletics, and I mean, still to this day, the things that I am able to utilize in real life. But probably even more than that, I have really fun memories of my upbringing in the church. And my parents, we live actually only a block away from the church I grew up in, and my parents were very devoted volunteers. It's a small country church, and so I always went to Sunday school. I was, baptized, confirmed, everything in the church, and our foundation in faith was really a big part of our upbringing. And still to this day have a lot of ties to that, and am super close to all my siblings and to my parents still. I mean, we feel super blessed by so many things, and so yeah, that's a little bit about my youth.
I grew up just west of Stevens Point. I grew up on a beef farm, and my parents still live there, and my brother has a farm out there as well. So the community, it runs pretty deep into my veins just because I've lived here my whole life. My family's lived here their whole life. So it's just important to me to continue to give back to the community that gave to me.
My mom and dad are originally from Wisconsin Rapids. They actually met at Shopko, which is no longer here. But after they got married, they moved to Waunakee, Wisconsin for employment and job opportunities. And when I was about 6, they moved back to Wisconsin Rapids. My mom's family had started a business here in the early 70s, and so she came back to join that with her 2 brothers. And we've been here ever since. So my childhood, besides being in Wisconsin Rapids, had a really amazing childhood. My family is huge to me. They always were supportive, always there for every type of milestone in my life, and always made sure that I was set up for success. So I know that not everyone's always as fortunate, and I'm always just really thankful for what I've experienced thus far.
I would say my biggest role model is my grandma. She still is, she's still alive. I would just say she's like the hardest working person, but she's also just so caring and so giving, and you know, she's just an amazing woman. So,
for me, my grandparents are huge role models in my life. They started their business again in the early 70s. They started out of their garage with one truck and kind of a dream. My grandpa has worked extremely hard. He was a Marine, came out, took his skills and applied them, and stayed true to the kind of work ethic that he has. And I think all of us have learned from that, our whole family, my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, my brother, everybody that kind of interacts, staying true to your word, being honest, being dedicated, always leaving something better than how you found it. If you say you're going to do something, you know that you're going to do that. And so really just exemplifying that in our life is something that I'm always, they're huge models for me. Not only, in their leadership style, but then as a family and the love and the support that they've given all of us and made sure that we get to do what's going to be best for us and for others. In addition to my grandparents, my mom is a huge role model to me. She is an incredibly selfless person. She gives before she ever will do something for herself. She cares deeply. She goes above and beyond. I say that, she doesn't bring the magic, but that she is the magic in the room, and just everything that she's done for work, for her community, for her family, for her friends, is something that's just really near and dear to me. And I know I'm really lucky. I have a lot of role models. So just a couple others I can think of is, music is a huge part of my life. And I think it's been a huge outlet for me and has allowed me to do so many things I would have never imagined, and to learn about myself and others and the community. And Judy Urban was my piano teacher. In fact, she was my teacher since I was 4 up until 18, and I still, we get together and we chat, we drink wine, and we just talk about life and the world, and we share a lot together, and she's just been a huge role model to me. And a lot of other music people. Pam Ross is huge for me. We play music together. Not only is she an amazing leader in the community, but she's also an amazing wife, a grandma, a friend, and just so many people. I've been so lucky. And I have to say it, I know I'm getting like a little long, but there is a third candidate that this is kind of funny and surprising, but Kristie Egge Rauter is another candidate for this, and she really is beautiful inside and out. I have been given many opportunities because she helped me get to where I am, and so she's been a huge mentor in my professional life and in my personal life, and I owe a lot to her.
So I would say my role models growing up were my parents. Looking back, I guess you don't realize that when you're young. Even when you're in high school, you look back and you don't really know who were my role models, or I didn't. I had some great coaches, and I through different things and some different other mentors and adults that I looked up to, but my mom and dad really were the people I listened to the most and looked up to. And I see now that so much of how they raised us with really a serving heart and a focus on volunteerism and helping your community is how I live my life today. And it was because of them, because of all that they instilled in me. And so they worked really hard their whole lives. My dad is he actually was an immigrant. He came here when he was 7 from Germany during World War II. And or right after World War II. And my grandparents had a very hard life. They didn't speak English, and my dad had to learn English, and so he worked very, very hard and has his own business and all of these, did all of these things and was able to accomplish a lot of amazing things to ensure that his children were able to have a good life, as first generation Americans. And my mom too, she always worked hard, always filled her plate very full with volunteering and giving back to others, always helping people, our neighbors, friends, people in the church. And so I still to this day look up to them, and they're huge role models for me. I have one teacher also that was really impactful in my life, and her name was Mrs. Rosenberg. She was a health teacher, and I had her for one of my first health classes that I remember when I was a sophomore in high school. And I do believe that she actually put me on the trajectory that I'm on today, which is in the career path that I'm in. She was always talking about prevention and health in a way that wasn't just about treatment, but really about thinking about the whole person and thinking about people's health really from a bigger lens. She was talking about things when no one else would talk about them, right? Like STDs and all sorts of things and that we deal with in public health. And she had a way of talking about them that was very welcoming and interesting, but also challenging. And so not demeaning or judgmental. And she really made me think a lot about my future career. And then as I went off to college and still stayed connected to her, I remember my first time seeing her and telling her, you really pushed me in a direction, and I'm looking back now, I can see that. And so she's a very influential person in my life, a great teacher.
I went to school for business administration. I've always had a knack for business. I've been surrounded by it my whole life. I also have really always enjoyed helping people and caring for people, but I wasn't sure that I wanted to be hands-on. I wanted to be on the business side of things. So I went to school for business with a healthcare administration minor. And when I graduated, I was referred to Wood County Health Department, and that's where I first started working as a receptionist and as WIC program support for the Women, Infant, and Children program. I was in that role for about a year and then shifted into a health promotion and communication specialist role where Kristie was my supervisor. And that was about working in the community, bringing people together, community partners, community residents, to identify what could we do to make our community a little bit better and what do those priorities need to be. And so through that work, I really got to meet so many different leaders and community partners and bring people together and make real change, do some really cool things. We helped with the farmers market, doing EBT payments so that people on food share would be able to utilize the farmers market. River Riders bike share program, bringing Zagster to the community. We did non-pharmaceutical prescriptions with the doctor's clinic. There's other partners of mine that were working in mental health and alcohol and other drug use and substance use. And so my work really is in public health, community health on a systems level, and trying to just make the community a better place so everybody can reach their well-being and best self. So I left that role because I was just ready for something a little different. And I had a short little break in between working from home for a company on a national level who specifically looked at maternal child health, so women health outcomes and baby health outcomes, prenatal to postpartum. And that was really interesting, and got to work with different agencies all across Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio, and learned a lot from people at all levels. But really started missing working at that community level. And so a new role opened between Wood County Human Services and the Wood County Sheriff's Department. And that's where I am now with discharge planning and case management. So now I get to work with a very targeted and vulnerable population with our jail population. So meeting people where they're at, learning their history, getting to know what's going to work for them, and how can I help and support you and get you connected to the appropriate programs and services. So a lot of my time now, I'm meeting with folks while they're in jail prior to their release and kind of being that liaison to them, to the community, and making sure that these things are set up for them the best that I can before they leave, to make sure that they have that optimal, transition back into the community so that they can be successful.
A little bit about my work history. So I have actually been here at the department for 13 and a half years. This was my first full-time job after college, after my undergraduate degree, which I went to college at UW Eau Claire, and my degree is in biology and chemistry, minor in chemistry there. And of course, a very broad degree, trying to for sure figure out what you're going to do. And again, back to that role model, really looking for a career in which I could make a difference, and landed in the field of public health, which is incredible. Before that, I had worked probably just odd college jobs, but jobs that I do believe helped grow me as a leader. I was a manager at a Bath and Body Works, manager at an Express. I worked at FedEx Freight actually for a small stint of time before I graduated with my undergrad, and then took this position. So this has been an incredible career, and because I've been here for 13 and a half years, over that time I've actually had 3 different titles, 3 different job changes, if you will, and now actually supervise a team of incredible people here in the office, and we focus on community health initiatives and efforts, really rooted on population health, obviously, but changing policies and systems in which we live that need to be addressed, that need to be changed, and really things that many of us don't even realize need to be modified or need to be improved, because they're just a part of our lives, our daily lives. And our role in public health is to help people understand why it needs to be changed or why it needs to be improved, and then help them improve it. And so it's been an incredible career, and one that I am extremely passionate about. I can share specifically some initiatives that have been really near and dear to my heart. We had started a program called Farm to School back in 2012, 2014, and we helped our school districts build strong relationship with local farmers and getting local fresh produce on the school lunch lines, which seems like an easy feat, but it's actually not. It involves a lot of work with a lot of policy, building a lot of trust with farmers, local farmers and administrators, and of course, I mean, the staff at the school. It's a huge undertaking for them to change their processes, and then that is something that we were able to help them accomplish, and still to this day there are some great sustained efforts, really ensuring that our kids in these school districts are getting the best quality lunches that they can get. And that's just one small example of things we've done, but it's a very easy one to explain. There's so many things that we work on in public health, from mental health to substance use prevention to Farm to School to active communities and the built environment. Getting a bike share program here in Southwood County has been another great success, and we're about to grow that program into Northwood County. So, pre-COVID days, we're doing some really neat things and some really fun things that take a joint effort at the community level, and that not one organization can really do on their own.
So I work for Century Insurance. I've worked there 6 years yesterday. So I work in claims. It's a pretty fast-paced, busy world, but I love it. Prior to that, I had worked for Ministry, which is now Ascension, but I worked there when it was Ministry. But what I really love about Century is their community base. I mean, they encourage the Power of Five so much. They're so supportive of it. They've, encouraged donations. They've talked about it to fellow employees. So I just think it's an amazing place to work. It lines up with my personal goals. No, I mean, the only thing that I do is the Power of Five, but I shouldn't say the only thing I do. But yes, that takes up a majority of my free time, which is fine because I love it. But we've donated to various organizations throughout the community, so I've got to really learn the ins and outs of a lot of the other nonprofits in the area, which is really cool because I've always heard about them, but now I know a lot more information about them. So it's been really awesome to get to know more about the programs that we do have in the community.
So everything that I do is really community focused, and while my work is very much so being ingrained with what's happening in the community and having the pulse on what can we do and can we make things better, I also like to volunteer my time around the different passions that I have. Right now I'm a board member for the Oxford Homes. We have those are our sober recovery living homes here in Wisconsin Rapids. There's two. There's one for men and one for women. And that's about supporting people in their recovery from substance use and making sure that they have that environment where they can be successful and have time to really get some length in their recovery so they can get back into the community and be part of their families or just contribute and have employment and be successful. I also volunteer with the Cultural Center. The arts focus is really important to me, and an organization focused on the arts is always critical to a community, and so anything that I can do with that is important. In addition to that, I was a part of Current, the Young Professional Group, so leading a lot of different educational or networking events to really show people how amazing of a community that we have and hopefully get people more involved and excited about the future of our community. I helped with Wood County Farm Tech Days for the food component for thousands of people in the middle of a farm field. That was fun. Encourage Community Picnic when they were having those. I also helped with that food component as well. And then overall, music, again, takes me to so many different opportunities and places, and so we often find ourselves playing for different benefits or nonprofit organizations to do any type of fundraising that they need to do.
Do I volunteer in the community? The answer is yes, I do volunteer. I explained a little bit before with my parents and their interest in volunteerism and serving and helping others. I have served on a number of boards. I currently, I serve on boards where I find connection or where I have a passion. I've in the past served on the United Way board, the Southwood County United Way board, and served on that board for many, many, many years. I currently serve on the Encourage Community Foundation Board of Directors, and I also serve on the Southwood County YMCA Board of Directors. And both of those organizations are doing incredible things. They have great leadership and great staff and are really doing things for our community that need to be done and that need to be offered and available. Encourage provides funding, small grants to organizations in our communities who otherwise wouldn't have that funding, and so they play a huge valuable role in really focusing on helping our community be a community that works well for all. And our YMCA, we are so blessed with the facility we have in Wisconsin Rapids. A city of our size does not have a facility like that, and so that has been a long process to get that facility, but really the incredible amount of opportunity that youth and adults have that from that facility is outstanding. And the Y is also a Y for all. And so people who may not feel like the Y is for them, the Y is for everyone. And that is why I serve on that board, that everyone should have the opportunity to be in a facility like that, have programming, learn how to swim, learn real, long life skills, and that our Y allows that and provides that and makes sure that families who otherwise wouldn't be able to have access. I also, my husband and I, we're really active and involved in our community. My mother-in-law, along with my mother-in-law and some good friends, a couple of years ago, we were able to get the adult fitness park down in the Demetz Park by the river by Aspires Riverview Hospital. And my father-in-law was the late Dr. Egge, and that park was put there in memory of him and his love for the community and how involved he was. And so through that process and through other processes, we've been very involved in the community and with the city. We worked hard and to ensure that park could be improved and that all that equipment could be made available. And so, I guess it's really a family affair, if you will. My mother-in-law Ann and my husband John we really pay attention to what's going on in the community, and we do our best to be as involved as we can. We know that our voice matters and everyone's voice matters, but if you don't speak up, no one will hear your voice and no one will know what you want changed in your community. And so it's been really encouraging to see the willingness from our city council and from others to work on improvements in our community and to allow people who have energy and excitement about things to allow them to really run with them and support them in that effort. And so those are just a few examples of ways that we've volunteered in our community and given back. What challenges are women in central Wisconsin facing? They are definitely facing a lot of challenges. Everyone's facing challenges right now, and this is probably the last thing people want to hear about because we all have COVID fatigue, and trust me, I get it. I dream about COVID, and it's my daily job, but my answer to this is very different now than it would have been a year ago, and for that reason, and for obvious reasons, but that's why I feel even more the need to say this and to say what I believe the challenges are, because these challenges are compounded with other existing health challenges that were here pre-pandemic, but we're seeing really across the nation and in our community, women leaving the workforce in droves because of the stress that comes with working from home, now being a teacher. If you're, our kids weren't in school as much, no kids were, but our youth weren't in schools, and so, or if children were symptomatic, then having to stay home with them for 2 weeks until having to stay home with them until either they tested negative or until they went through, they were no longer symptomatic for that 14-day process. There is no way to explain really the stress that is associated with that other than living through it, and the expectations that are on women then who are maybe caring for children, trying to keep their household, or if not caring for children, just keep their household work, with incredible amounts of pressure on them. And then in other cases, women now having to care for elderly parents and the stresses that come with the fears, right, that have been out there all year. And so for that reason, I really feel like today is a new day, and we have a really great, I think moving forward, a great outlook and a great opportunity to take the last year and what it's done and help a new tomorrow, right? We know that life is forever changed. We know that virtual work may be here to stay in some cases, for some industries. And what does that mean then for families? What does that mean for single people, for families with children? There is a lot of stress, and there is this need to balance work and to balance life. And you take those stresses already onto something that we know was a huge issue, which is mental health. That's been a huge issue for years, and something that we need to deal with as a country, and something we need to face as a community, and really work on prevention and resiliency and all of those things. But there's no amount of other things at this point in time that I can say are of bigger concerns to women. And so I do have a very positive outlook on the fact that I believe we've learned a lot. There are a lot of silver linings from 2020, if you will, and from the pandemic. And pre-pandemic wasn't good either. There were things that I think all of us would have liked to change about our community, about our circumstances. And so if we can take the good of 2019 and the good of 2020, and we can move forward in 2021, just imagine what kind of awesomeness we can have. And so I'm hopeful for that. I'm optimistic for that. Whenever someone says I want life to go back to normal, I say, whoa. Normal's not good. We don't want the normal. We want a new, we want a new normal. We want a better normal. And so I'm optimistic. I feel the stresses have been difficult, and they've been challenging, very challenging for people, but we're on the other side of it. And that, for that reason, I'm hopeful.
I would say, just the general challenges that, we want to be heard. We want to have an equal voice. I feel that Central Wisconsin is pretty good about that. I feel like, you know, you could always be better, but I think we're pretty fortunate to be in this area, to be, you know, women in this area. We're pretty fortunate.
In general, I think women always face the challenge of being a little underrepresented in elected positions, on boards, and in positions of leadership. I think women, you know, have that struggle of work-life balance, and while I don't have a family of my own, that's something that I think that will be a struggle for me in the future too, is wanting to be involved but needing to balance your time between work, community, and your family and your home. And I think that there's brilliant women, I know so many, and somehow coming up with ways to get women to run for these elected positions or to join these boards or give them the opportunity to lead in organizations will be really critically important. I also know, you know, from my work in health, that women often face a lot of maternal and child health barriers from prenatal to postpartum, and needing to advocate for themselves and what they need to be able to do to have healthy outcomes for themselves and their babies. And so across the board, you know, there's always challenges for all populations, and those are two things that I think most apply to the work that I've been doing.
I would say get out and volunteer. It doesn't have to be money. It can be your time. It can be even just, you know, talking to people. I know that's a huge one. You know, like I said, my grandma was my role model. During COVID, my grandparents didn't have any of us over. She just missed that communication with people so much. So calling her was amazing. And I would say if you have grandparents, take the time to, you know, be with them, and just enjoy your youth while you have it, because it goes by so quickly and everybody's so excited to grow up, but it really is a good time, you know, teenagers and youth, that's a good age.
My advice for local youth is to get involved in your community. Get involved, learn about your community outside of your sphere of influence, if you will, or outside of your circle. Find out turn every corner, learn about your community, know about it, and then decide if you like things or if you think things can be improved. And if you think things can be improved, or if you have an idea, which you all do, you all should, you need to speak up. You need to get involved, and that involvement. It may be successful in the sense of something that you want to happen. It may happen, or it may not happen, but don't be afraid of failure. And we learn from failure, and I would just say to any youth out there to fail forward, right? We learn from trying, and if we don't ever try something, we would never know that it doesn't work. And so my best advice is to get involved. People will support you. People want to hear what you have to say. They care about you. They want you in this community, and they want you to be active in the community. And find those folks, find those mentors, find those support systems, and get involved, because you guys can make a difference. You're hugely important in this community, and you're the reason that it's going to be a vibrant place for people to live and play and work.
I think it's okay that you might not have everything figured out. And a lot of people don't have everything figured out, no matter what age. It's okay to kind of shift around as you learn. It's okay to change your thought process and ideas, and that's okay. I think too that youth have a lot of challenges, and I had a lot of challenges when I was in my youth, but it changes over time. And so as an adult now, it's important that I try to understand the barriers that are faced, and it's important that youth have a voice. So I think on that spectrum, be as involved in things as you can be. Know that you have a voice and people want to hear that voice, and that if there's an opportunity for you to share your experience, you should share. And then I think just overall, it's important to just be kind. youth are going through a lot, and there's a lot, social media and just being positive and mental health, and that somebody that you're talking to, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and same for everybody. And so just always coming from that lens of empathy and just being kind to one another, it's what we all need.